Okay, tonight is Alma chapter 50.
And now it came to pass that Moroni did not stop making preparations for war or to defend his people against the Lamanites, for he caused that his armies should commence in the commencement of the 20th year of the reign of the judges, that they should commence in digging up heaps of earth round about all the cities, throughout all the land which was possessed by the Nephites. And upon the top of these ridges of earth he caused that there should be timbers, yea, works of timbers built up to the height of a man, round about the cities. And he caused that upon those works of timbers there should be a frame of pickets built upon the timbers round about, and they were strong and high.
It says that they were building something around the cities, and now you saw the description. So if you were going to say what it was they were building, I mean, what does it sound like from the description? What are they building here? Kind of like a fort or a fence. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, right? Because it says that they were building timbers, right? So timbers are kind of like boards, right? It says to the height of a man. So so let's say about this tall, 5 or 6 feet tall, and then they put that. And then on top of that, it says they put pickets on top of that, right? Did they mention points yet? Okay, so almost like something to prevent people from climbing over. Okay, so they made it tall and strong and. With I think somewhere in here it mentions points on the top, right? So that it's preventing people from climbing over. So they were protecting the city. They were building, if you will, a fence or a wall around it, or making it like a fort. If you've seen the westerns where they have the forts, that's kind of what it's like. Big tall boards and maybe some kind of a fence at the top, and then this way the people inside, they can stand up on top of the fence and they can hold their guns out or whatever, and they can protect the fort or protect the city. So this is what they were doing here, building these kind of things around every city. So now, I mentioned at the very beginning, it says Moroni did not stop making preparations for war, and the reason it's mentioned that we mentioned last week as well. See, they were in between battles here. So the Lamanites had retreated in the previous chapter. They went back home to the land of Nephi, right? But instead of Moroni saying, okay, let's all go. Let's just go play golf now, or let's go home and watch movies, right? But instead he says, he didn't stop making preparations. Let's take advantage of the time we have now in between battles to prepare for the next one. This way, when they come again, because they will come again, this way we'll be ready for them. Okay, so that's what they were building here. They were building kind of like a picture like a fort around the whole city. And at the end of verse 1, round about all the cities, about all the land which was possessed by the Nephites, right? So they were doing it for every city they had. This way, every city was protected.
And he caused towers to be erected that overlooked those works of pickets. And he caused places of security to be built upon those towers, that the stones and the arrows of the Lamanites could not hurt them. And they were prepared that they could cast stones from the top thereof, according to their pleasure and their strength, and slay him who should attempt to approach near the walls of the city. Thus Moroni did prepare strongholds against the coming of their enemies round about every city in all the land.
Right there at the end in 6, it mentions again what we just said, that it was every city in all the land is what they were working on, right? And now in 4 and 5, it's describing further what they're building. Now it's the places of security, right? Now again, if you were just thinking, especially again if you've seen things with forts and so forth, what do you think of as places of security to be built on the towers? Like a guard tower, exactly. A guard tower. That's what I had in mind, right? So we have somebody up there who can now see over the top, so that they can see the whole horizon as to who's coming, so they can warn anybody who's coming. And then they're in a place where they're too high up for this, is for like stones or arrows to get to them because they were too high up. So they were safe up there, where the guards were. And they could see what was going on. And if everybody's coming, see, they can throw stones down there, right? You just couldn't get them up there. They had gravity on their side, okay? So we can throw stones at you, we can't throw stones at me, all right? So that's a nice arrangement, okay? So yes, that's exactly what I'm picturing here, right? So you got cities with kind of walls around them, kind of like a fort, with the wood all the way up to the top, and then a tower up there where they could watch what's going on, and they could help to protect the city that way. Okay, so they really thought it out, and we put it together like this.
And it came to pass that Moroni caused that his armies should go forth into the east wilderness. Yea, and they went forth and drove all the Lamanites who were in the east wilderness into their own lands, which were south of the land of Zarahemla. And the land of Nephi did run in a straight course from the east sea to the west. And it came to pass that when Moroni had driven all the Lamanites out of the east wilderness, which was north of the lands of their own possessions, he caused that the inhabitants who were in the land of Zarahemla and the land round about should go forth into the east wilderness, even to the borders by the seashore, and possess the land.
These kind of verses, all right, that they give a description of the geography. I mean, if you were going to try to really make a map of the area, this would be helpful. Lamanites live there, and the Nephites live here, and so whenever they go to war, we just have them cross it back and forth like this, depending on which side they're on, right? And occasionally we draw a few other little cities around here. It says they drove Lamanites into their own lands, which were south of the land of Zarahemla, all right? So really, Zarahemla, if you can figure north at the top and south at the bottom, then Zarahemla should be here, and the land of Nephi should be here, okay? That's what it sounds like. The land of Nephi is south, and the land of Zarahemla. Now it says that they were going around kind of driving the Lamanites back into their own land, right? That's what they were doing. They went into the east wilderness, which to me, an east wilderness would be, or any wilderness, would be a place where there's no city, all right? So these are places where typically people don't live, but I guess they had these stray Lamanites hanging out in the wilderness, and they said, go back where you belong. Right? Go back where you belong. Get out of here. Right? We don't want anybody hanging around who's going to cause trouble for us. Right? You're a Lamanite. Go to where the Lamanites live. So they just were doing this kind of cleanup effort here to just chase them all back to their city. This way they knew they're all there, we're all here, and then I think I said that now they're able to take possession of these lands that surrounded their cities. That's all. Just a matter of again trying to fortify their cities and make them as safe as possible. So let's get those who aren't of us away from our cities, get our cities fortified with these fort type things, and now we're ready.
And he also placed armies on the south in the borders of their possessions, and caused them to erect fortifications, that they might secure their armies and their people from the hands of their enemies. And thus he cut off all the strongholds of the Lamanites in the east wilderness, yea, and also on the west, fortifying the line between the Nephites and the Lamanites, between the land of Zarahemla and the land of Nephi, from the west sea, running by the head of the river Sidon, the Nephites possessing all the land northward, yea, even all the land which was northward of the land bountiful, according to their pleasure. Thus Moroni with his armies, which did increase daily because of the assurance of protection which his works did bring forth unto them, did seek to cut off the strength and the power of the Lamanites from off the lands of their possessions, that they should have no power upon the lands of their possession.
I was saying similar things to what we were just saying, that they were driving the Lamanites away from the lands near where the Nephites were, where they could have possession of their lands. Again, it's describing all the Nephites possessing all the land northward, including the land bountiful, which this is from there up is where the Nephites owned. Right? And then, but now in verse 12 it says Moroni with his armies, which did increase daily. Now, why were his armies, the size of his armies increasing? People wanting to help, seeing the enormity of the job, that they wanted to be involved. And they felt safe, all right? They felt safe in being involved, apparently. So maybe others before that felt like, well, I don't want to be in the army because I'll get killed, right? Or I don't want my family members in there. But see, in 12 it says it increased daily because of the assurance of protection which his works did bring forth unto them, right? So seeing these nice, safe-looking forts, they said, hey, I can be in the army with this, right? I can be in the army if I'm behind that wall, or I'm way up in the guard tower. I guess they were able to get more volunteers for the army because they felt safer in participating. So I think all the reasons that we said is that there was a great work to be done. People wanted to help because they wanted to protect their wives, their families, their religion, their homes, and so forth. And that they felt now a little safer in doing so because they saw where the work was going. They said, yes, this is good, this is good work, and so yeah, we can feel safe being part of this. This feeling of safety helps to draw more people that way.
And it came to pass that the Nephites began the foundation of a city, and they called the name of the city Moroni, and it was by the east sea, and it was on the south by the line of the possessions of the Lamanites. And they also began a foundation for a city between the city of Moroni and the city of Aaron, joining the borders of Aaron and Moroni, and they called the name of the city or the land Nephihah. And they also began in that same year to build many cities on the north, one in a particular manner which they called Lehi, which was in the north by the borders of the seashore.
Right, so you can see that in addition to even fortifying the existing cities, they said, hey, let's make some more cities. Right, so they made a few more cities, and you see some of their names there. Now, when you see the names of the cities, what comes to mind when you see the names of the cities? Where are they getting these names from? From the names of the leaders who were there, right? Different ones, because all of these names, we've seen them before, they're names of people. Okay, so it wasn't just they're picking a name like like Philadelphia, right? They're picking a name that's actually named after somebody. right? So now, of course, I mean, it's not too much of a stretch to say, well, it's a city Moroni, right? We're just reading about Moroni, so obviously that was named after him, right? But now it says they had a city of Aaron. So who was Aaron? Son of a man named King Mosiah. Mosiah was the father, right? He was the last king, actually, before they went to the judges. So he had 4 sons, and they were sometimes known as the 4 sons of Mosiah, for obvious reasons, right? And one of those 4 was Aaron, okay? So Aaron was one of the sons of Mosiah, right? And then there's another one that's named Nephihah, okay? Now who remembers who Nephihah is? He was the current chief judge of the land, right? So, and basically he replaced Alma in that position when Alma had given up the job, right? Because Alma was both the chief judge and in charge of the whole church. So that was 2 big jobs, and so he said, I reached a point, he said, I can't really do both, so I need to give one up. So I would rather stay in charge of the church, so I'm going to give up my position as the chief judge, and under the reign of the judges. Okay, that's kind of what we're talking about. So Nephihah was the man he picked to replace him in that position. Okay, so Nephihah has been the chief judge for these years, right? And so that's who that is. And then finally, it says the 4th one was named Lehi, so like a captain in the army here, in Moroni's army, the man named Lehi, right? Okay, so it's just a little review as to who they were, but you see that this is how they were naming the cities. They named them after people.
And thus endeth the 20th year. And in these prosperous circumstances were the people of Nephi in the commencement of the 21st year of the reign of the judges over the people of Nephi. And they did prosper exceedingly, and they became exceeding rich, yea, and they did multiply, and were strong in the land.
It's still keeping track of the time. It says now that the 20th year is ended, and the 21st year is beginning, and it says it finds the people of Nephi, it says in a prosperous condition, right? Because they're at this point living right, they're serving God, so in this case God is blessing them even financially, right? It says that they were rich and they multiplied a strong land, right? So they were being blessed in all ways at this particular time, right? See now unfortunately what happens a lot of times in the story of the Book of Mormon is when the people got riches, then they became prideful and they moved away from God, right? And now I'm not saying that that's what's happening just yet, but that does happen quite often. So we see this really. Maybe after a while God said that's enough of blessing people with riches because they go crazy then when I do that, right? But in this case, they were doing what was right, and so God was blessing them in all ways.
And thus we see how merciful and just are all the dealings of the Lord to the fulfilling of all his words unto the children of men. Yea, we can behold that his words are verified, even at this time, which he spake unto Lehi, saying, Blessed art thou and thy children, and they shall be blessed, inasmuch as they shall keep my commandments, they shall prosper in the land. But remember, inasmuch as they will not keep my commandments, they shall be cut off from the presence of the Lord. And we see that these promises have been verified to the people of Nephi, for it has been their quarrelings and their contentions, yea, their murderings and their plunderings, their idolatry, their whoredoms and their abominations, which were among themselves, which wrought upon them their wars and their destructions.
It's like a little summary statement here. It says, and so we see how merciful that God was to the people, especially when they were living in the right way, right? It says that, and he's fulfilling what he had said to, now this Lehi is the Lehi of old, right? This was the Lehi was the father of everybody. And he had said to him, as his family arrived in the land of the Americas, that this will be a blessed land for you inasmuch as you keep my commandments, right? If people keep my commandments, they'll be blessed. And if they don't, they won't, right? So it was pretty much that cut and dry is what he told them. So that's why the writer here is pointing out, see, these people were blessed. There are a lot of good things are happening because they're following the commandments of God. So we see that God doesn't lie, that God is doing just what he said, right? And because now when they did what was right, they prospered, and all the problems that they had were related to their own, I'll say their own actions, right? Their own, we say their own sinfulness, right? Their own not following the commandments, they're letting the evil one in, right? Comes back to their actions. And in fact, when I was reading verse 21, all the place where it says there, so I put an emphasis on the word there. See that, like it says, it's because it was their quarrelings and their contentions and their murderings and their plunderings and their idolatry, right? It was their things that caused it, right? So all the things that they were doing is what caused it, And that was just said. I mean, it wasn't that they had, their enemy was so powerful at different times and not so much other times. It was because when they were doing wrong, then not as much protection of God was on them during those times. That's right.
And those who were faithful in keeping the commandments of the Lord were delivered at all times, whilst thousands of their wicked brethren had been consigned to bondage, or to perish by the sword, or to dwindle in unbelief, and mingle with the Lamanites. But behold, there never was a happier time among the people of Nephi since the days of Nephi than in the days of Moroni, yea, even at this time in the 21st year of the reign of the judges. And it came to pass that the 22nd year of the reign of the judges also ended in peace, yea, and also the 23rd year.
22 is kind of summarizing what we just said. Right? It says those who were faithful, it says were delivered at all times, and then those who were the wicked wound up in bondage or dying or dwindling in unbelief or mingling with the Lamanites. We've read several accounts where there was groups of Nephites who joined in with the Lamanites because they became wicked, so they didn't want to be with even called Nephites anymore, so they went and joined in with the Lamanites and then came as part of the armies that fought against the Nephites. So that was one of the outcomes, and as you see some of the other ones. So when they were not following the commandments, they wound up in places where they really shouldn't have been winding up, right? And so that being the case, though, is that it's focusing more on the positive right now, saying how it's never been a happier time among the people of Nephi than right now, right? Because as people were being blessed, they were working together, they were building cities, building the walls around the cities, all working together. So I'm sure it was a very unified time, and so it says it was never a happier time among the people of Nephi than right now. So it's good to note that, and it lasts for even a few years here, as you can see, right? It says we were in the 21st year, this has got through the 22nd year, the 23rd year. So these are years of peace and happiness and contentment and so forth. So it's a nice little respite from all the different wars that they've had. That they had a time of peace and happiness, and it all came from following the commandments of God and being together and focused on one cause.
And it came to pass that in the commencement of the 24th year of the reign of the judges, there would also have been peace among the people of Nephi, had it not been for a contention which took place among them concerning the land of Lehi and the land of Morianton, which joined upon the borders of Lehi, both of which were on the borders by the seashore. For behold, the people who possessed the land of Morianton did claim a part of the land of Lehi. Therefore there began to be a warm contention between them, insomuch that the people of Morianton took up arms against their brethren, and they were determined by the sword to slay them. But behold, the people who possessed the land of Lehi fled to the camp of Moroni, and appealed unto him for assistance, for behold, they were not in the wrong.
We're cruising along here with peace for a few years, and then as the 24th year is beginning, it says we would have peace this year too, but we had a little disagreement among the people, right? And it's again, not unlike things that have happened more recently. It was a disagreement over a piece of land, right? As you can see there, it says it took place concerning the land of Lehi and the land of Morianton, which I guess they were right next to each other. So it says those in the land of Morianton wanted part of the land of Lehi, and said this is ours. And they said no, this is ours. And so they went up in a fight over a piece of land. Like I said, not unlike things that happen today, right? Or in recent history, where countries or nations or areas battle over a piece of ground, right? Or whether it's a city or whatever. So this is what they're doing. They had a disagreement here now. And I like the way it says that there began to be a warm contention, right? So that to me it seems it wasn't hot, it was just a warm contention. It was, a little disagreement, right? That they were fighting over this piece of land. Those who were possessing of the land of Lehi, which I guess it really was their land, right? It says they went to the camp of Moroni and asked him to help. Right now, Moroni is the big cheese here, the big general. So they basically were going right to the top and saying, hey, this is wrong what they're doing to us. So can you protect us and help us to protect this piece of land that's ours? So they figure this way we'll put an end to this. And it uses a phrase here, which I don't know if I ever saw it used here. I mean, it's a phrase I thought was a contemporary phrase, that they were not in the wrong. That's something we say today, but it says it was kind of worded that way here. It says they went to him because they were not in the wrong. Okay, so.
And it came to pass that when the people of Morianton, who were led by a man whose name was Morianton, found that the people of Lehi had fled to the camp of Moroni, they were exceedingly fearful, lest the army of Moroni should come upon them and destroy them. Therefore Morianton put it into their hearts that they should flee to the land which was northward, which was covered with large bodies of water, and take possession of the land which was northward. And behold, they would have carried this plan into effect, which would have been a cause to have been lamented. But behold, Morianton, being a man of much passion, therefore he was angry with one of his maidservants, and he fell upon her and beat her much. And it came to pass that she fled and came over to the camp of Moroni, and told Moroni all things concerning the matter, and also concerning their intentions to flee into the land northward.
It says that they were led by the man by the name of Morianton, as we said. And then when they heard that the people of Lehi were going to Moroni, they said, "Uh-oh, this is trouble," because Moroni is the big general with the big army. So if he agrees with them, they'll come and wipe us out. So we need to get out of here, right? So that they were making plans to take all the people and move them to another place. Which, for reasons that doesn't really go into detail here, is it just wouldn't have been a good thing for them to have done that. All these people would have been led astray, right? Where really, probably Morianton is the one who was wrong, and here he was going to take all these people away, so it says it wouldn't have been a good thing. But then in verse 30, as we were just noting, right, it says Morianton is being a man of passion, so he was angry with one of his maidservants, and he beat her, right? And now this maidservant, not willing to take this lying down, apparently, okay, she goes to Moroni and tells him what the plan was, right? This is Morianton's getting ready to take the people and flee, so she told on him, and so now Moroni knows what the plan was, that they're going to try to take these people out of the city and bring them up to the land northward. So you see what happens when you let your passion get away with you, okay, or get away from you. That here he beat this girl, but the girl went and told on him, so now he's going to get in trouble here, because now Moroni knows what the plan was.
Now behold, the people who were in the land Bountiful, or rather Moroni, feared that they would hearken to the words of Morianton and unite with his people, and thus he would obtain possession of those parts of the land which would lay a foundation for serious consequences among the people of Nephi, yea, which consequences would lead to the overthrow of their liberty. Therefore Moroni sent an army with their camp to head the people of Morianton, to stop their flight into the land northward. And it came to pass that they did not head them until they had come to the borders of the land Desolation, and there they did head them by the narrow pass which led by the sea into the land northward, yea, by the sea on the west and on the east.
Moroni, upon hearing what the plan was, right, and saying that this would not be a good thing, it says it would be serious consequences for the people of Nephi if these people can do this, if they flee and go to this other area, and he takes the people with him. So what did Moroni do at that point? They chased them, right? He sent the army to chase them down, and when it says to head them, it means like head them off, right? To overtake them and stop them from going. So that's what he did. He sent the people to chase them, and sent the army. And so it says where they caught up to them. It says right by the borders of the land Desolation was where they caught up to them. And so at that point they were able to stop their flight, because it just would not have been a good thing for them to do that. And the group would be divided. Here we're just talking about how the group was unified. Now the group would be divided, and then who knows what they would do next. They might go join in with the Lamanites or something. So he said they really didn't want them to go that way, because he was convinced, I think, that the leader was the one who was the wrong guy, right? That the people were just blindly following the leader. So he wanted to head this off before they would get away. So he caught them at the land Desolation.
And it came to pass that the army which was sent by Moroni, which was led by a man whose name was Teancum, did meet the people of Morianton, and so stubborn were the people of Morianton, being inspired by his wickedness and his flattering words, that a battle commenced between them, in the which Teancum did slay Morianton, and defeat his army, and took them prisoners, and returned to the camp of Moroni. And thus ended the 24th year of the reign of the judges over the people of Nephi. And thus were the people of Morianton brought back, and upon their covenanting to keep the peace, they were restored to the land of Morianton, and a union took place between them and the people of Lehi, and they were also restored to their lands.
Okay, so upon catching up to them, it says that Morianton did have his followers and his army there. So it says that they were being stubborn, and they really, I guess, wouldn't listen to reason. So a little skirmish broke out here. But upon the leader being killed, like it mentions, Teancum, who was in charge of this particular part of the army, it says kills Morianton, and so now with the leader killed, so now everything's done, right? So once that happened, they took the rest of them prisoners, and they all returned to the camp Moroni as the 24th year ended, and as you see in 36 now, all the people were able to be brought back, and once they talked to them and they agreed to live in peace, so they were given their land, they said the people of Lehi can have their land, and everybody's going to more or less live happily ever after, at least for the 24th year. Okay, so they settled it as peacefully as they could. Like I said, they killed the leader because I think he was the instigator, and once they did that, then things were more headed in the right direction.
And it came to pass that in the same year that the people of Nephi had peace restored unto them, that Nephihah, the second chief judge, died, having filled the judgment seat with perfect uprightness before God. Nevertheless, he had refused Alma to take possession of those records and those things which were esteemed by Alma and his fathers to be most sacred. Therefore Alma had conferred them upon his son Helaman. Behold, it came to pass that the son of Nephihah was appointed to fill the judgment seat in the stead of his father. Yea, he was appointed chief judge and governor over the people, with an oath and sacred ordinance to judge righteously, and to keep the peace and the freedom of the people, and to grant unto them their sacred privileges to worship the Lord their God, yea, to support and maintain the cause of God all his days, and to bring the wicked to justice according to their crime. Now behold, his name was Pahoran, and Pahoran did fill the seat of his father, and did commence his reign in the end of the 24th year over the people of Nephi.
As I mentioned earlier, so when we were asking who the city of Nephihah was named after, okay, it was named after Nephihah, right, who happened to be as we said, the second chief judge, the one who had replaced Alma when he had given up that position. So now it says that now he died in this particular year. So therefore now he selected it was selected a new man to fill that position, and that man was who? His son, whose name was Pahoran, was picked to be the new chief judge, and he would have been the third chief judge that they would have had since they started this particular system of the judges. And as we had said when we were reading about the system being set up, I mean the chief judge is basically like the governor, let's say, right? He was like the head of the government in that particular area. So he would be like the governor of Pennsylvania, for example, right? So that would be the chief judge, and there's a whole system of judges under him and so forth. And so there's a like appeal processes that could go up the line depending on what it was. And so there's a whole set of rules set up to govern the people to not have a king. One other thing that I mentioned here is that if you remember, Alma was the record keeper as well. Right? It says that Alma apparently, as he was divesting his duties, had asked Nephihah, did you want to take over the record keeping? And I guess he didn't feel to do that. Maybe he figured he had his hands full with being chief judge, so he didn't want to be the record keeper as well. So then instead, as we read a few chapters ago, Alma gave him to his son Helaman instead, and so he made him the record keeper. So the writer right now is Alma's son Helaman, but apparently it was first offered to Pahoran, or not Pahoran, to Nephihah, and but he had turned it down, so then they turned to his son instead. So just a little points. And we mentioned whenever these kind of things come up, it's just nice to see the keeping records even of who was writing at different times, and it gives more authenticity to the writing, to understand who's writing, and then you can kind of maybe recognize their style of writing and to see what they're recording and what's important to them, and also you can appreciate that it's written from that person's point of view and that person's perspective as you